Hi, welcome to English Academy 101. My name is Michael, and I'm here to help you with your English learning journey. In English, conditionals help us describe something that might have happened or might happen. Sometimes we call them if clauses. They are made using different English verb tenses. In today's lesson, we will learn how to conjugate these different conditionals and when to use them. If you would like to skip ahead to any part in today's lesson, we have added video chapters below that you can select. Zero conditional. The zero conditional is used to talk about general truths and habits. In other words, it is true 100% of the time. You can start with the condition followed by the result. The form is if plus present simple verb plus present simple verb. For example, if it rains, I use an umbrella. If I drink a beer, I don't drive a vehicle. If we study, we do well in school. You can also put the main clause at the beginning of the sentence. In this case, you don't use a comma. For example, I use an umbrella if it rains. I don't drive a vehicle if I drink a beer. We do well in school if we study. You can also use the word when in the place of if without changing the meaning of the sentence. For example, when it rains, I use an umbrella. When I drink a beer, I don't drive a vehicle. When we study, we do well in school. Now, it's your turn. Try answering this question. What happens if you don't study for a test? I might answer by saying, if I don't study for a test, I fail. First conditional. The first conditional is used to talk about possible things in the future. In other words, it has a 90% to 99% chance of being true. However, as it is in the future, we can't be 100% sure that it will happen. The first conditional is often used when talking to your boss about a future plan. You can be very sure that it will succeed as you have done all of your research and are very sure. However, you can't be 100% sure as there could be something unforeseen that might happen, such as a fire destroying the factory. The form is if plus present simple verb plus will plus infinitive. For example, if we practice, we will get better. If it doesn't rain, I will go to the park. If they don't call back, I will call them. You can also use the word unless to replace the negative form. For example, if it doesn't rain, I will go to the park becomes I will go to the park unless it rains. Now it is your turn. Try answering this question. What will you do if you can't sleep tonight? I might answer by saying, if I can't sleep tonight, I will read a book. Second conditional. The second conditional is used to describe hypothetical situations in the present or future. In other words, it might have a 5%, 1%, or even 0.000001% chance of happening. However, it doesn't have a 0% chance of happening. It might not be very likely, but it is not impossible. Very often, we use this conditional when talking with friends about our dreams for the future. The form is if plus past simple plus would plus infinitive verb. For example, if I won the lottery, I would buy a house. If I were the president, I would lower taxes. They would stay longer if they had more time. Now it is your turn. Try answering this question. What would you do if you were the richest person alive? I might answer by saying, I would buy an island to live on if I was the richest person alive. Third conditional. The third conditional is used to describe hypothetical situations in the past. In other words, this describes impossible situations or situations with a 0% chance of happening, as they are in the past that we can't change. Remember, previously, we could use the first conditional to talk with our boss about a future plan. The third conditional can be used when looking back on a project and learning from our mistakes. The form is if plus past perfect plus would plus have plus past participle. For example, too bad. If you had helped us, we would have finished on time. If I had studied, I would have passed the test. If you had been nicer, I would have helped you. Now it is your turn. Try answering this question. If you hadn't studied English, what language would you have studied instead? This question doesn't quite apply to me, but I can still answer it with a small modification. For example, previously, I studied French. However, if I hadn't studied French, I would have studied Korean instead. Therefore, as a quick review, the zero conditional is to talk about things that are true 100% of the time, whether that be in the past, present, or future. The first conditional is to talk about things that are true around 90 or 99% of the time, in the present or future. The second conditional is to talk about things that are true less than 5% of the time, but more than 0% of the time, in the present and future. The third conditional is to talk about things that are true 0% of the time, in the past. If you would like some more practice with zero, first, second, and third conditionals, check out our website, EnglishAcademy101.com, where we have included some additional exercises. We have included a link in the description below. That's it for now. Don't forget to keep studying your English.